Okay, confirmation on YouTube and PEG Television. So Vice Chair, it looks like we are ready to begin on time when you are.
Thank you. I'm showing a time of 8:59 as of right now. Good morning, everyone. The time is 9 o'clock. I'm calling the Planning Commission meeting to order for December 16th, 2021. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First thing we will take care of this morning is the consideration of approval from the November 18th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting.
Madam Chair?
Please.
Can I get the door? If you don't mind?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
I move that the Commission adopt and approve the minutes from our November 18, 2021 meeting.
Okay, is your mic on?
Sorry, I second that.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Motion carries, and we will bring up our first item at 9:05. While we're waiting on that, we can do citizens' input. Any persons wishing to speak on any agenda item or items that are not listed on the agenda, right now would be the time. Feel free to approach the podium if it has nothing to do with any agenda items. It would be like something else that you'd wish to bring up. No? Okay.
Madam Chair, we do have, we did have a hand raised in the Zoom room when I interrupted you, but it's back up. Should I take that hand?
Yes, for citizens input, Jake, if there is somebody there that wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda.
All right. It looks like I have a hand raised from Sean. Sean, I have allowed you to speak. Looks like you're muted. Will you please confirm your first and last name?
Yes, my name is Sean Panessa, and I am, hang on one second. I am speaking on the need for women's treatment in Lake County, and that is the...
Is that an agenda? I don't mean to cut you off, Sean. Are you referring to, I believe it's an agenda item that's coming up later on?
That is an agenda item, that's right.
Okay, I will give everybody a chance to speak when we are actually addressing that agenda item. So if we could just be patient until we reach that agenda item, that would be
Okay,
great.
I'm sorry, and that'll be at what, at 10 minutes after?
It is scheduled for item number 2, beginning tentatively at 9:10, but we do have an item to address prior to that.
Okay, I'll stay on.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you so much.
Any other
Okay.
hands in the Zoom room, Jake?
No, not at this moment.
Okay. Did you want to speak on an item that's not on the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, just please state your first and last name.
My name is Justin Quayle. This is to do with Pillsbury Family Farms. It has been on your agenda but taken down. We've been going about 5 years in just a couple days, and we've paid our early activation $10,000 fine or fee 2 years ago, and we finally got an inspector to come out, and he said he has no idea why our project's being held back so long. I'm very concerned about the workload. We had Saturham here for 2 years that lost our project. We have Eric.
Let's
now.
let's address the planning.
Well, I would
commission
like one of you guys to come out. I've heard before that we can have one of you guys from your board come out to our scene, and we would like that.
Absolutely.
It's very frustrating when you have a county that can't, there's no accountability for anybody or anything. And the last time they sent out the commission letters, they sent them for some other project way out in the middle of nowhere that has nothing to do with our road. They're not on our water district. They're not in our living area, but they're sending letters out to the wrong people for the wrong projects. So I wish there was some kind of accountability for the workers, at least at this level here at the commission part, that maybe you guys go out to some of these projects. Some of these projects, like we're on an old mill site and nobody's come out. We're not on the snow load. National Forest said that we're not on a road that's seasonal, but then Cal Fire says it's seasonal. People are scared to come out and look at and he even said that people don't want to come out there. But you guys zoned that area as cannabis, so we should be allowed to get into the program if you zoned that area for cannabis. And so it's very frustrating. People, especially like me, I had over millions in investment people, and I didn't told them, no, I'm not breaking the ground. I'm doing everything by the book, and we can't get in. So maybe we could get one of you guys to come out. We would love that. We would even pay for your expenses to get there. We can pick you up if you don't want to drive your car down the county road, even though your inspector that we had last week said that our road's better than the county road graded. So it's really, really frustrating. Very frustrating. I don't know how to express it. I don't want to sue the county. I don't want to do anything. I want to get into the program. We've been raided in 2014, and all the charges were dismissed. And we just want to get back to what we know, what we do. It's on that property. It's been cultivated for over 40 years, and we would like to keep cultivating our natural ways. We don't go to the hydro stores. We make our own soil. We have animals. We do it the natural way so it doesn't ruin the environment. But all these big projects are getting in that are out to ruin projects. I was on one that was 50 acres. They had to let half of the crop die because they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to dry it. And they were using salted nutrients. It's like the wine growers. You guys complain about the water pollution. You got wine growers and weed growers using salted nutrients. Of course the ground is going to go bad. Our soil, our land, we have rejuvenated it from an old mill site.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, anybody.
If I may, I just had a quick question.
Yes.
Where exactly is your project located?
It's right on the Mendocino County line going out to Lake Pillsbury. We're DeShields Ranch. There's 2 Cal Fire monuments on our road, and where people have died over the years. Our property burned, so we're still cleaning up from the burn. But it would be nice to have somebody come out and be like, wow, this is where outdoors should be growing. I'm not gonna, my closest living neighbor is 6 miles.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate your input this morning. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak for citizens' input before we open up to our first agenda item? Jake, any hands in the Zoom room?
There are currently no hands raised in the Zoom room.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close citizens' input, and we are good to go for our 9:05 item. First item on the agenda is a public hearing on consideration of a major use permit UP 20-75 and mitigated negative declaration IS 20-88. The project applicant, North Coast Select Incorporated, is proposing a co-location/clustering of permits for cannabis cultivation operation to allow 70,560 square feet, mixed light canopy area within greenhouses equipped with air filtration systems, and a total of 168,680 square feet of cultivation area. The project includes additional greenhouses for immature plants, a processing facility, a dry building, 32 2,500-gallon water tanks, security, and a perimeter fence. The project is located at 1496 Bell Hill Road, Kelseyville, California, and further described as APN 017-002-02, 007-010-24, and 017-002-01. Staff.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Staff is requesting a continuance for this due to the irrigation pond not being analyzed in the initial study. I don't know if you guys are wish to hear it still. It was not analyzed in the initial study, but it was acknowledged in the biological report. There was no note, no additional analysis done on that irrigation pond in the biological report, so it was not mentioned in the initial study. But all of the attachment, the technical reports, and the initial study was publicly circulated in the state clearinghouse. So it's up to you if you guys want to.
So staff at this time feels like their report is not complete? Or you'd rather us have all of the additional information before making a decision?
Yes.
Okay. And for a continuance, do you have a date certain, or?
The following meeting?
The
It's in
next,
January,
the
yeah.
next calendar meeting?
Which would be
January.
January 10, I believe, or 13?
The 13th?
If I can just jump in here for a minute. There might be some people in the audience who are here for that event,
Okay.
for that discussion. Maybe we want to consider them since they've come all this way.
Okay.
If we continue, then we can't hear anything on the subject. We can decide to continue or not, but
Can we consider it as an information item?
You may hear comments, you may hear presentations from staff. Staff, however, has explained that the initial study may be incomplete at this time. And if that is the case, it may be that comments will be on a project that may not be the same project when it comes back to you, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Nicole.
for my old brain, it would be more useful to hear public comments and also be able to have confidence that we're operating with a full staff report. And for that reason, I would prefer to continue if this is how you lead with your opening, and we want to make sure that we're dealing with the most complete packet of information possible.
Right. Yes.
Thank you. That being said, would we,
Move to continue.
yes,
Yeah, I'll second that.
all in favor?
We're just to clarify, so we are moving to continue to January 13, 2022.
Correct. Date certain. So we have a motion and a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion shall carry for the continuance for January 13th, 2022. Okay. Moving on to our second agenda item. This is a public hearing on consideration of a major use permit, UP 21-24, and a categorical exemption, CE 21-05. The project applicant, Hilltop Recovery Services Incorporated, owner Lori Carter Runyon, is proposing an expansion of a substance abuse rehabilitation treatment facility to allow total maximum capacity of 20 residents to serve only women in an existing residential home to be converted as a treatment facility. The project is located at 14725 Catholic Church Road, Clear Lake Oaks, California, and further described as APNs 010-046-06, Unfortunately, due to the posting of an inaccurate notice, item number UP 21-24 and categorical CE 21-05 for the December 16th, 2021 Lake County Planning Commission agenda will require renoticing. The notice published on December 6, 2021 noticed the recommendation of a categorical exemption when it should have been noticed the recommendation of an addendum to the mitigated negative declaration of major use permit UP 21-24 and CE 21-05. Because of the renoticing requirement, the Planning Commission may hear comments on the item UP 21-24 and CE 21-05, but any decision by the Planning Commission will need to be reserved for a final hearing at a later date after accurate notice is posted. The attached staff report and other documents regarding the reapplication for amendment of UP 21-24 and CE 21-05 are provided for item number 2 on today's Planning Commission agenda. These documents analyze and address the addendum to the mitigative negative declaration. Staff, do you want to give us a little bit of background information on that?
Okay. Well, I prepared a presentation. I don't know if would you like me to go over that?
The actual presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
But a decision can't be made.
So there's no decision to be made today?
Correct.
It is being moved?
Yeah, the issue here is notice was insufficient or incorrect, and in order to meet due process requirements, notice must be correct so that everybody in the public who wishes to participate in your decision-making process can do so. And if the notice does not have the appropriate information in it, then not everybody who would otherwise have participated would choose to participate because they don't have the appropriate information as to what your decision
Is based on?
would be based on today. So you may hear staff's report, you may hear comments, you may participate in the proceeding. However, your decision must be reserved for the later meeting when notice has been proper, and anyone else who wishes to participate receives that notice and has a chance to come in and participate.
And do we have them set up for a date certain? Are they going to be on the next agenda for January?
Yes.
Do you consider the staff report otherwise complete, unlike with item number 1?
Everything is complete.
Meaning that
Just the
would be
notice?
otherwise
Yeah.
usable today? Okay.
Yes. Everything is complete except for the renoticing error.
Well, mistakes happen, and yet I apologize to the public. You've seen us having to pass on the first 2 items on the agenda for the last meeting of the year. And we come here as eager to work on these issues as you are to see us complete work on these issues. And so I apologize that we're passing on these first 2 agenda items for technical reasons, but I don't really think we have much of a choice.
If I may, I'd like to hear anybody who has come to this meeting to talk about it, so.
Absolutely. I'm just sorry we can't act today.
Yes, I understand that. Is there anybody in the audience who is here for this item? I see 4 hands.
So what we will do, I will let you go ahead and do your staff presentation.
Okay.
And then we will have a chance for public comment. Just be aware that we are not able to make a decision today, but with everybody taking their time to show up in chambers and staff for providing the report, we will go ahead and hear it. So go ahead, staff. Thank you.
Oh, you know what? I didn't share.
That one, select that one. Screen. Oh, you are sharing. Now, the other thing is it's hard to hear you, so if you could talk into the microphone directly, that would really be helpful.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the share is set up, but we are seeing a file explorer. We're just seeing a list of. Is the presentation up on for you guys in there?
Oh. Okay, now should you see it, right?
No, I'm gonna stop sharing. So when you set up the share, you, make sure to select the right window.
Oh, it changed windows.
There we go.
Yeah, got
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you. Here you go.
Okay. Oops.
It's still there, for Christ's sake.
Okay, so today's agenda, we're going down the list of the topics and findings for Hilltop Recovery Services for the expansion of a drug and alcohol rehabilitation facility project. Under Article 27, for a community care facility, if there is a change in the number of occupancy as previously approved, the applicant shall apply for a new major use permit under this ordinance. The applicant meets this permit type for this zone and will utilize existing facility on the property without new developments. To the north of the proposed project use is an existing community care facility permitted in 2016 under the use permit UP 1515 located on parcel APN 010-04602 as shown. Was it running the Highway 20? The other northern parcel contains ranching with single-family dwellings. To the east is rural lands and developed with dwellings. To the west is rural lands and agricultural preserves. To the south is rural lands with dense vegetation with few disturbances that occur in these areas. The proposed 19.
Satur, can I interrupt just briefly?
Yes.
Can you hear this? Is this muffled or is it clear?
Sorry.
Okay, good. Just wanted to be sure, thanks.
And just to confirm, we also hear clearly in the Zoom room.
Okay. The proposed 19.57 acre site is currently developed and will utilize the existing building, facilities, and infrastructures listed on this slide and addressed in detail in the staff report. The adjacent parcel existing facility under use permit 1515 that fronts the state highway is an active treatment facility only serving men and currently allows the total occupancy of 42. The proposed expansion under the new use permit will allow an increase of occupancy by 20 to serve only women. The project will expand and utilize the parcel to the south as shown. The applicant has requested and received an early activation of use. It's an emergency early activation to allow existing dwelling to be used as, well, an emergency shelter for women while this use permit request is processed. The site description involved using all existing structures on site and as described in this slide, as well as detailed in the staff report. A site visit was conducted twice on July 9th, 2021, and again December 8th prior to the hearing. The photo to the left shows the existing single-family dwelling to be used as the community care facility. And to the right is the existing permitted septic system to accommodate the proposed increase in occupancy. Staff reviewed the project is concurrent with the following listed and determined that it is consistent with the Lake County General Plan, Shoreline Community Air Plan, and zoning ordinance. The project is an expansion to an existing community care facility from an adjacent parcel north of the proposed project site. The proposed project complies with the general plan for rural lands as other typical uses permitted conditionally when it is coupled with the Lake County Ordinance Article 27.13E. Under this section, community care facility includes residential care facility for elderly, adult daycare facility, home finding agency, and social rehabilitation facility as defined in Section 1502 of the Health and Safety Code. The Lake County General Plan addresses homelessness as one of the major population concerns within the housing element and falls within the category as special needs. According to the general plan, the loss of housing is usually the result of multiple factors, such as chronic health problems, physical disabilities, mental health disability, or drug and alcohol addiction, along with an inability to access the service and long-term support needed to address these conditions. The proposed project involves providing treatment services for drug and alcohol patients to recovery that would otherwise result in an individual who would likely be classified as someone with special needs. The project proposal provides transitional housing and a life and safety system for women in recovery who may otherwise be homeless or without safe and clean housing. The project meets this goal. The project is located within a scenic combining designation. The project is located far from plain view off of Highway 20 with dense vegetation providing a natural view along the route. There will be no development upon project implementation because it is existing and currently meets the height requirements set forth in the scenic combining district. Therefore, it would not impact the scenic viewshed. Therefore, agrees with the policy 3.4.4A and policy 5.1.1F encourage the development of appropriate medical and wellness services. Currently, there's only one alcohol and drug recovery service located in the shoreline community area to address these specific needs within the community. Therefore, the county should encourage the expansion of this use permit to continue serving the growing needs within the shoreline community area, nonetheless to serve women. In this slide, staff will demonstrate how each of these sections of the zoning ordinance are met. The project zoning designation is rural lands. The proposed project is an allowable use under the zoning designation rural lands and provides a large portion of the parcel undeveloped and remote for proper rehabilitation. It meets the zoning ordinance under the use permit in Chapter 21, Article 7.3M for those uses permitted in the rural land district with a zoning permit in Table A in Article 27. The project is located in the waterway and scenic combining district. However, the proposed project will not impact the scenic view shed or waterway as it involves the use of an existing structure, existing utilities, and existing ponds. As stated in both Article 34 and 37, the existing structures meet the intent set in both districts, all situated away from designated for scenic route and waterways. Therefore, the proposed project implementation does not require any additional condition or mitigation to satisfy the elements under these articles. The purpose of Article 27 allows for the use possessing characteristics of unique and special form to make these uses acceptable in one or more districts upon issuance of a major use permit, in addition to any required grading or building, grading, and or health permits. Specifically, Section 27.13E permits a community care facility within the following condition listed in the staff report in detail and attachment 2. The existing permitted project under major use permit UP 1515 is currently governed under a mitigated negative declaration IS 1534. Per SEQA section 15164, the lead agency, Lake County Community Development Department, has the authority to prepare an addendum to a previously adopted mitigated negative declaration, provided no substantial changes to the project would involve significant environmental effects or substantially increase the severity of previously identified significant environmental effects. Staff has reviewed the previous environmental assessment for the site and the potential cumulative effects for the new proposal to provide additional effects that were not previously identified or mitigated, and found that the project as proposed does not substantially increase any effects known nor introduce new effects that were not known at the time of the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration. The proposed changes are to increase the occupancy number, expand into the existing single-family residential home on the adjacent parcel, altering the existing structures by converting it to a treatment facility, and utilizing the existing structure for new use, for which a new use is no longer accommodated for a single-family residential home, instead a treatment facility. The existing structure was used as a single family residential home and converted to, converted as a change in use to a treatment facility to serve as a rehabilitation center of the existing permitted use 1515. The existing facility permitted under 1515 was evaluated for environmental implications of the land use action under IS 1534. The proposed project expands to the south of the existing facility, where many of the indirect improvement, such as driveway and roads standards for ingress and egress, are created and established under this existing approved use permit. Therefore, no off-site improvements are expected as a result of the new project. The project was previously approved by the Planning Commission in 2016. The project proposal for the facility is not expected to create or exacerbate, which upon project implementation could be a detriment to the health, safety, morals, comfort, and general welfare of the persons residing or working in the neighborhood, because the applicant proposal integrated any potential concerns in the project scope to be remediated. The applicant will make minor adjustment to the existing facility to meet regulatory compliance for local and state to accommodate the additional 20 occupants. The siting has been established and meet the adequate size, shape, location, and physical characteristics to accommodate the proposed expansion. Though the expansion will result in 62 occupancies, the residents of the facility will not have access to their vehicles and will mainly be used by staff and guests. Environmental Health commented and noted that the applicant obtained an alteration septic permit under permit 18813-A in 2020 to accommodate the change in use of the residence for the expansion. The applicant also issued a permit for an existing well. The project is consistent with the county code as listed in bullet 5. There are no existing violations on the property, therefore the project meets the following findings for approval. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following action to adopt the addendum to the previously adopted mitigated neg deck, IS 1534, provided that the project is a minor technical change and is supported by substantial evidence. And that staff provided an explanation. The project would not involve new significant environmental effects or substantial increase in severity of previously identified in the initial study. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following action to approve the major use permit to expand the number of occupancy to serve women with the following findings stated in the previous slide and in the staff report. Staff also recommends the inclusion of the condition approval shown in this slide as well as in attachment 5 upon approval of the major use permit. And the rest of the conditions of approval. Some conditions in reference to Caltrans may be subjected to change or omitted due to new communication with the agency. Staff is in coordination with the agency currently and will provide a follow-up on the next meeting upon determination.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Before I open it up to public comment, do either of the commissioners have any questions for staff? I do believe the applicant is present. Do you have any questions for staff before I open it up for public comment?
I do have a couple of questions, perhaps for the applicant rather than Satur, but what is I'm confused about signage. Is there signage? Is there no signage? Is signage still an issue? According to some of the neighboring comments, some people are still appearing at the wrong address and knocking on front doors, that kind of thing. And then also, you didn't mention anything about a possible change in terms of the encroachment permit and upgrading to a commercial standard, which I assume would have some additional environmental effects.
I did speak to Caltrans yesterday.
I'm sorry.
I spoke to Caltrans yesterday, and there seemed to be a miscommunication in the past, and there is a possibility that there may be no issues at all. So I will.
But is there literally a sign?
There is a sign.
Okay.
Yes, and I am in contact with Caltrans regarding the signage and where is their right-of-way. And they actually have a mapping system and the tools to know where they can relocate the sign.
And in terms of an encroachment permit?
The encroachment, based on my communication, is in reference to the amount of impact. When I mentioned that the amount of impact, they said they might not be necessary.
Who said that?
It was
Because Caltrans
Jesse.
mentioned it as an issue. Did
Previously, yes,
Yeah.
because I was told there was a lot of miscommunication in the past. So we're getting it all clarified, and they wanted more analysis on that. So I'm working with them
Okay.
for the next hearing.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for staff? Okay, thank you for your report. If anyone would like to speak on this item, we will go ahead and open it up for public comment. You are welcome to approach the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Please be sure to state your first and last name.
So does the 3 minutes also apply to the applicant themselves?
Whoever decides to approach the podium will have 3 minutes to speak.
Including the applicant?
Sure. Yes.
All right, so the applicant is limited to 3 minutes of speaking time?
If they would like to, so there won't be any decision made today. So if they would like to speak, they're welcome to, you can either represent them or if you'd like to have a seat, if you're wanting, do you have a presentation?
So I'll speak. My name is this on?
Hello.
Can you hear him, Sam?
Hello, there we go.
That's good.
Okay, so my name is George MacDonald. I'm an attorney with Katzoff and Rakes. We represent the applicant. The applicant is also here, and she'll state her own case and statement. So, you know, from the start, it seems like there's been a lot of confusion regarding this very, very, very simple and necessary project that was submitted over a year ago. This is a project that deals with facilities for persons with disabilities. They're entitled to special protections and accommodations under the ADA. None of that has been given throughout this entire process. It's extremely concerning. I think that we should remember the history in this county. With this specific group right here, in 2005 they had to sue the county over a similar issue as this, refusing to process a permit dealing with an ADA facility, applying arbitrary conditions, saying that the septic or water or signage wasn't sufficient. The court said, "County, you shall grant this permit. This falls under reasonable accommodations for ADA." And the fact that we're back here now, 7 years later, is very concerning. So, first, there is a project located on the adjacent property. It's a separate project, entirely separate. We first tried to have an expansion of that project. Scott De Leon, at that time, the director, said, "You can't do it. It's on a separate parcel. You need to apply for a new use permit." So we did. He gave us actually a template to follow. So this is what you must have in your application. You should describe it in phases, 1 phase and 2 phases. So we did. But it seems like that's generated a lot of confusion. We're not sure why. The maximum occupancy of this project here is 20 persons. It's not really an increase of the other facility. This is a standalone, separate project. So, because of that, we're not entirely sure why the M&D from the previous project is being amended, as opposed to the categorical exemption being applied to this project. So it's our position the notice is actually sufficient. It notices it for a categorical exemption. This project should be qualified for a categorical exemption under a couple different grounds. The first would be the existing structure grounds, the existing use. The test there is quite simple. The key consideration is whether the project involves negligible expansion or no expansion of use. There's going to be no construction here, no expansion of the facilities, nothing of the sort. All the same facilities are being used. There shouldn't be really any greater environmental impact that would occur when this was being used as a single-family residence. Maximum of 20 people will be there. And the people that are there, they live there. They don't drive in and out. So there's no traffic issue or anything of the sort. This facility is accessed via Catholic Church Road. It is a county-maintained road. We're not sure how this turned into being accessed via Wisner Lane. It is not. And that's where this entire confusion with Caltrans came up. I'd like to point out, this is in the comments, actually, the agency comments. When this project first went out for public agency comment, it seems that the request itself did not contain enough information. But the folks with Caltrans, they said, well, we looked at where this project is ourselves, and it seems like this isn't related to Wisner Lane at all. It's not even located on Highway 20. So it's our position, there is no issue. We have no comment. And that was the comment, that was the agency comment from Saskia Reimer Burnett on March 16th, 2021 to Mr. Porter. She said, right in there, the facility appears to be relatively small scale and low impact in terms of traffic, so it seems likely we have no comments on this project. The parcel does not front the highway, so we see no highway access issue. Well, unfortunately, the county and planning division responded with an altered map that we didn't produce that showed access via Wisner Lane. We're not sure why that happened. That created a lot of confusion and a lot of delay and a lot of suffering for people that need this treatment. It's a big problem that this happened. So, it's our position. That is the agency comment. They have no comment. There's no issue. There should be absolutely no conditions placed on an encroachment. It's not necessary. We have that already in writing from Caltrans. The access is via Catholic Church Road. There's an electric gate on the road. It has a firebox on it. The fire department has been out, approved it, reviewed it. They know how to access it. There is a problem with Google Maps in Lake County generally. Google Maps does not always know how to find places. This is why, for example, anyone familiar with the fire department knows they do their own maps. They map it out themselves. They don't rely on Google Maps because it's not accurate. Unfortunately, right, Google Maps takes persons looking for the facility to some neighbors because there's a confusion. with Google Maps. We've been trying to fix that. Google Maps is very, very difficult to get them to change the address. We request that the neighbors do their part as well to inform Google Maps of this problem. It involves Google Maps sending a card to the mailing address and a verified response. So you have to be able to receive mail there. So it's really not entirely in the control of the applicants here what Google Maps says. And of course, a normal human response, if someone mistakenly comes to your house, would be, hey, you must be looking for the facility on the road. Let me show you where it is. That'd be the normal human response. So really, there's no issue at all. It's our position that the notice is valid, that this is a separate project, a separate use permit. We're not really amending the use permit relating to the existing facility. This is a separate project, which frankly we were directed to do by the previous director of CDD. So we followed those directions. As far as any other concerns regarding alleged drug paraphernalia or inadequate septic or water, these are the exact things that the federal court said in the previous case involving this applicant and the county, saying that is not grounds to deny a use permit. Cannot be. And we are asking again for a reasonable accommodation. That's in Article 70 of the zoning ordinance, which was drafted in response to this previous lawsuit. We're asking again for a reasonable accommodation. If there is any issue with the access, we're asking for a reasonable accommodation of that. Now, there's also a problem with the early activation because, unfortunately, again, the first hearing on this matter was scheduled at a time when the applicant was out of town. She had notified CDD she'll be out of town. They held the hearing that date anyway. They never provided notice to the applicant. All the neighbors received notice. The applicant did not receive notice. My office did not receive notice. So that is why the applicant was not at the previous hearing. We didn't know about it at all. And consequently, the EA has expired. We're asking that the EA be renewed immediately. Another request under reasonable accommodation, the article providing for early activation does not prohibit it to be renewed via the Planning Commission. We believe the Planning Commission has authority to do that. And we request that it be done so that this facility can continue in operation until this matter, if it needs to be continued based on notice issues, they should be allowed to continue to provide services. This is extremely important in this time of COVID. As we all know, in light of COVID, alcohol problems, drug problems have increased a lot. We need these facilities. Anyone who's lived in Lake County a long time knows we need these facilities. I've heard recently the city of Lakeport is going to start eradicating homeless encampments. We need these facilities. We need somewhere for people to go. This is an extreme problem. Lori, who is the applicant, she'll speak on the signage issue as well. She has information on that, but I'm happy to answer any other questions that there may be, but as far as we're concerned, it's properly noticed. It should fall under a categorical exemption and be approved today. And there really is no issue at all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Commissioners, if I may.
Please.
Just to clarify a couple of things. One, the Community Development Director does not have authority to direct your commission to make certain decisions or do certain things. So determinations of prior directors or the current director would not necessarily dictate your decisions. Two, there is an Article 70 within the zoning ordinance that does deal with reasonable accommodation. However, there are requirements within that section as to how to request reasonable accommodation. And it must be in writing. There is generally notice in a hearing, so the public may comment as well. The writing is intended for the individual requesting accommodations to clarify what accommodations they are asking for. Here, however, for this project, in this instance, the delay is because notice was incorrect. And reasonable accommodation does not include the waiving of
Public notice.
well, yeah, but I was going to say, oh Lord, due process. My apologies. Does not include the waiving of due process for others or those involved with the application. So notice would have to be correct regardless. And that is the circumstance here, is that notice needs to be correct. As far as exemptions and under CEQA and whether or not the amendment requirement is applicable here. If there is a prior permit issued with a prior CEQA analysis, CEQA has certain steps that must be gone through. One of them is under 15162, the CEQA guidelines. Staff was required to go through those elements there. There are 3 of them listed. If any of them is triggered, then an EIR would be required for a change of a prior approved CEQA determination. If staff determines under those 3 sections that none of them is triggered, then they would look to 15164, which would allow for an addendum of a mitigated negative declaration, which my understanding was the prior CEQA approval here was a mitigated negative declaration, in order to expand or change prior approvals under CEQA for a mitigated negative declaration to reevaluate the potential for impact from the changes that are being proposed. You can ask staff to elaborate and explain how they made the determination that this was an expansion of an existing use as opposed to a separate use altogether. But if it is an existing use that is being expanded or altered under a prior approval, then that would trigger that part of CEQA. And it would also trigger 60.33 under our zoning ordinance for the county, which is the section of the zoning ordinance that requires, that governs amendments of prior approved permits. And under that section, it is required that any prior approved permit that is going to be amended must go through a reapplication for amendment process, which is the exact same process as the prior permit in front of the exact same decision maker who made the prior decision.
Okay.
Which would be the Planning Commission, yes.
Thank you for the clarification. Public comment is still open if anyone wishes to speak on this agenda item. You'll have 3 minutes. Good morning. Please be sure to state your first and last name.
Good morning. My name is Lori Carter-Rudyan. I'm the applicant, and it's actually been almost 2 years since we started this process. Initially, we did ask for reasonable accommodations. As someone coming in and being somewhat aware of reasonable accommodations, I still do not fully understand the full planning process. So when I asked for assistance in reasonable accommodations, I would assume that the planning department would have helped me with that situation. Instead, we received resistance from the start. Now, I do want to explain that the state of California does allow 2 separate properties with 2 separate use permits to run as one license. What the commission may not be aware of is we are legally licensed and certified currently now for 48 beds, which means I reduced my numbers of men's treatment beds and only added 10 treatment beds to the existing facility. We are legally able to operate as far as the state of California is concerned. However, my minor modification, early activation, was expired, which I had also requested previously when I found out about our hearing while I was on vacation in Hawaii, which Mr. Porter was aware of, that we had had a hearing of which we had not received notice. Now, once we had the early activation, I immediately did apply to the state of California as soon as I was able to, because I was in the process of my renewal, and it takes some time. When you're doing something with the state, you can't move forward in a new application or changes if you're in the, you can't make any changes while something is in process. So as soon as that was done, we moved forward, and July 16th, they made their inspections. Now, I want to make one thing clear. This entire time, this entire process until Satura Ham showed up in July, it was the first time I was able to get anybody out to visit the site. Not only was it the first time I was able to get anybody to visit the site, but instead of Mr. Porter showing up, he sent code enforcement along with Satura Ham, and I did not understand why that was an issue, why code enforcement was coming.
Constant criticism of Eric Porter is unnecessary.
No, I'm just speaking, and I'm not attempting to say, it's not about putting Mr. Porter down. I'm not understanding why he, who said he was going to come visit, up until that morning, and I have those emails, saying he was going to visit the site, he would be there, and then he said it was being turned over to Satur. That was up until that morning, and then code enforcement. So I just don't understand the process. We've been looking for assistance to be able to help provide services to women in this community. I don't know if the Planning Commission is aware that in the last 2 years, there have been more deaths from drunk driving accidents, overdoses, and suicides than there has of COVID in this county. And those are facts. Those are important facts that our community needs to be aware of. We are trying and attempting to provide a much-needed service to Lake County residents. We are proposing, we're licensed to add 12 additional women's beds to a 3,600 square foot existing building. And the reason...
I do apologize, that is
Okay,
the
my
3 minutes.
time is up.
Yeah, you can wrap it, you can continue.
I
or
do also
fill
want
your
to say,
statement.
as somebody who's a recovering addict, myself, I have 24 years in recovery, and for 23 of those years, I've been providing services in this community to give back, to help people change their lives. And I hope that you'll give Hilltop that chance to do so by allowing us our minor modification, activation to be extended until the next hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work you do.
Anyone else wish to speak on this agenda item? Feel free. Please be sure to state your first and last name, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is John O'Donnell, and everything that I've heard today is, it's getting me really emotional. I'm a recovered alcoholic addict here in Lake County. My sobriety date's February 27, 2006. Well, about 2007, I met Lori and Ryan. We brought a meeting. I'm a spokesperson right now as a member of the Hospitals and Institutions wing of Alcoholics Anonymous. And Lori asked then, about 2008, to bring a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous to Hilltop Recovery when they were up on top of Socrates Mine Road, in which we gladly did. Now, I'm focusing on the men's recovery here because I want to share the successes. The most recent successes, 2 gentlemen come to mind that successfully graduated from Hilltop. And since they graduated, I kind of sponsor them. I say Connor sponsor them. I'm more of a friend, but yes, also sponsor. I was able to attend with this one gentleman over at court in Mendocino the other day, in which, because of his success through Hilltop and through other programs that are offered in Lake County, Hope Center, for example, and Project Restoration, he was, instead of going back to prison, which would have cost the state about $80,000 a year, he was, all of those charges were dropped, and we got a set of goals for him to go back to school, to become a counselor. He's bilingual, much needed in Lake County. Super success story. Another gentleman, I just talked to him yesterday, again, successful graduate from Hilltop, successful through the Hope Center project, and now he's employed. He's got his own place, and we're working the program together, and just beautiful results. I want to be able to see a woman stand here and share those same success stories with the Hilltop program for women. That's possible. Addiction is a very violent, nasty disease, and usually the women suffer the most in any type of a relationship with addicts, and if they're addicts themselves, it's just terrible. And you see that with the homeless right now, the women, and my heart goes out, especially this time of the year when it's so cold and so wet, and they're living in boxes behind Walmart up there, behind Safeway and Clear Lake, and other places, and they're in the jails too. I'll wrap it up real quick here. There's other avenues. So I would hope that this planning committee, please prioritize their project so that they can receive women from off the streets, out of the jail, give them that chance, give them those services so they recognize how to beat addiction. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak on this agenda item? Please approach the podium and be sure to state your first and last name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Jackie Chernow, and I live at 14723 Catholic Church Road. And I'm a retired RN, and I'm totally on board with recovery. In fact, I had 3 brothers that passed away regarding drug overdose. And so I'm well aware of how it is needed. But my concern is the fact that Hilltop, the men's facility, you know, people are still arriving at our house, and I know the attorney says it's not a problem, but, you know, they still, and we go out and we kindly tell them where to go, but sometimes it's not such good people that show up at our house. And our road, the Catholic Church Road, where the gate is, it goes into the new recovery area, it goes straight through. The road is not wide enough for 2 cars, so people are pulling off into our orchard. Now, we propose that someone should help us get a gate on our property to prevent this. You know, we're not against recovery. We are totally not. But the way they changed their address from Catholic Church Road for the men's recovery to Highway 20, and they still show up at our house. And we talked to the applicant, and she's having trouble too with the address. And the county does not maintain our road. They have not done anything to that road. There's potholes, and my husband has been the one that has maintained that road. So I think it's only fair that we get a gate, that somebody helps us get that gate to prevent this. And the property owners below us are in agreement with this, because they don't want people driving down, you know, I mean, they're looking for this place, and it's not their fault. You know, it's the way the county has it listed. You know, no one knows where to go, you know. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Feel free to approach the podium. Please be sure to state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. My name is Bob Gardner. I'm the medical director of the Adventist Health Lucerne Clinic and also of Hilltop Recovery. I was involved when this process started about 19 months ago, and this was right when the pandemic started, so things were crazy. The place was closed. We didn't know if the whole world was going to die, that we didn't have to worry about substance abuse. But we found out since the world's going to continue, and that the epidemic of drug abuse may be worse than the pandemic. Hilltop Recovery has been serving people in the county. They've served thousands of people and helped them get better. They've been here almost 20 years. They provide the only licensed residential treatment beds in the county, in a county that has the worst drug problem in the state. They are a local nonprofit. They're a winner of the Stars of Lake County. They're a good organization and deserve help instead of roadblocks. It's not about personalities at this point. There doesn't have to be finger pointing. It's just what's for the greater good of the people of our county. And for the greater good, it's passing this project and helping them any way that can be helped. If you do the numbers, they had, and we've probably heard enough math this morning, but they had 48 beds. They legally have 6 women there without even coming and getting a use permit. So that goes to 54. They're asking for a total of 6. So for 19 months, there's been hassle over really 6 beds. And what has happened in that time, it's, you know, there's financial ramifications. Okay, so they have a building that sits empty, but there's personal, there's human complications from actions or inactions. And during that 19 months, somebody's neighbor, friend, daughter, mother, niece, cousin could have died, or they could have gotten help. I just urge everybody to look what's for the greater good of the people of the county and pass this use permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak on this agenda item? Okay, is this going to be repetitive of your previous comment?
It'll be real quick. It's just that,
Please state your name, please.
my name is Jackie Chernow, and I feel like the county should come out and look at that road closely, you know, carefully, because to see how they can rectify this, you know, on all of it. And I know they need their use permit, but, you know, we also need some help to have somebody come out and look at it. And I guess somebody already did, but I don't know, you know, because the county does not maintain that road. They say they do, but they don't. So, anyway.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, I'm Ryan Runyon. I'm the Program Director of Hilltop
Can you just repeat it so we have it correctly?
I'm Ryan Runyon, Program Director of Hilltop Recovery Services.
Thank you.
Did you get it? Okay. I just wanted to say that we have met with the neighbors and we're more than willing to work with them. They've been great. If there's a way for us to put a gate on that road, we're more than willing to do that. I just don't know because I keep hearing it's a county road, then I'm hearing it's a private road. So, I mean, we need to get that sorted out, but I'm more than willing to do that for them because I don't want them being inconvenienced. So, just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Please.
Hi, this is Mary Darby, the new CDD Director. I am scheduled to visit that property next week.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for that clarification. I will let you speak one more time, and then I'm going to open it up to the Zoom room. Please be sure to state your first and last name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Robert Gardner, it'll take about 5 seconds. One of the suggestions is, why don't we help put up a sign by their property? This is not Hilltop. Please turn around. This is a private residence. Thanks.
Thank you. Jake, is there any hands in the Zoom room for this agenda item?
Yes, we do have some hands raised in the Zoom room.
We are going to open it up to the
This
Zoom
isn't
room.
a town hall meeting. This is a meeting of the Planning Commission.
Jake, did you say there was hands raised?
Yes, we do have some hand raised. The first hand I have raised up is from April Jambra. I butchered that, I'm sorry. April, giving you permission to speak. Looks like you're unmuted. Will you please confirm your first and last name?
Thank you. My first and last name is April Gambra, and I wanted to say good morning to everybody and thank you for all of the information. I really appreciate everybody's passion and support when addressing treatment. I am the Lake County Behavioral Health Program Manager, and I am also the County Administrator for our drug and alcohol programs. I wanted to just kind of support the passing and approval for this project, in that I wanted to supply some data. So during the fiscal year 2021, Lake County Behavioral Health Services referred 43 women to residential treatment programs, 21 of whom were referred to programs outside of our county. So during the first 6 months of fiscal year 21-22, the Behavioral Health Department has sent 14 women to residential treatment outside of the county. So that's a total of 35 women who have been asked to leave the community and county where they reside to receive drug and alcohol treatment services that this project would have provided. Today, the number of individuals being referred outside of the county is projected to surpass those in the fiscal year 2021. There is no doubt that our department has seen a steady increase in the severity of substance use disorders and the need for treatment within this county. This project has the potential to provide life-saving treatment and recovery to individuals who need it in this county. So if there's anything that this commission or the county can do to approve this project, I request that you do so. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Jake, is there anyone else in the Zoom room?
Yes, we do have a list of hands here.
Excellent, thank you.
The next hand I have up is from Todd Metcalf. Todd, I've given you permission to speak. Looks like you're muted. Will you please confirm your first and last name?
Yes, hello Commissioners. My name is Todd Metcalf. I'm the Director of Lake County Behavioral Services, where, as you may or may not know, we serve individuals experiencing mental illness, substance use disorder, and homelessness. I'll keep this brief. I just want to echo what Ms. Gambra just stated, and also want to express our tremendous support for this project. I mean, this is a much-needed program to serve our female clients locally, as April said, instead of sending them out of county, which is pretty much what we currently have to do because the services here do not exist. So I look forward to the next hearing about this in January, and to move this project forward. And if you just could let us know if there's anything we can do on our end to help support and move this project forward, you know where to find me. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
All right, the next hand we have raised is from Amanda McGuire, I'm sorry. Amanda, I've given you permission to speak.
Hi, yes. My name is Amanda McGuire, and I just recently graduated Hilltop Outpatient. And I just want to say how much they've helped me. Like, I have a year clean as of last month, and I had a 21-year meth addiction, and they've helped me tremendously. And I know that there are so many people in this community, so many women, they need help, and they really need a facility to do it. And I just please, please help them out and allow this facility to open. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us. Is there anyone else, Jake?
Yes, the next hand I have raised up is from Mary Jane. Mary Jane, giving you permission to speak.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mary Jane Montana, and excuse me, I was this Community Development Director during Hilltop Recovery's initial use permit up on Socrates Mine Road. I've dealt with them since that time and have tried to help them with this new project. They had to move after the fire. They successfully evacuated with no loss of life, and we're looking for another place that they could relocate. At that time, I worked with the current Community Development Director, Rick Coel, to assist them in getting a temporary occupancy of this where they are now, and they have gone forward successfully in both places, both permits, and have done everything possible to cooperate with the Community Development Department, and have been exemplary in all of their acts. And yes, as their attorney stated, the current reasonable accommodation ordinance was drafted by me, approved by the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission in response to action taken against their predecessor and required by federal court. So they've been battling for quite some time to keep going. They are good citizens. They do what they say they're going to do and have met all the requirements every time on their use permits. There's been no violation of their use permits. And they're just doing this to slightly increase the number of patients that they can treat, as well as to include women. I will have more detailed information for you at the next meeting, but I just wanted to say that this project really does need to be supported. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Jane.
Okay, the next hand I have up is from Kimberly Layton. Kimberly, I've given you permission to speak.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kimberly Layton. I work for Lake Family Resource Center. I am the Rape Crisis Center Program Specialist. I work with domestic violence victims as well as sexual assault victims. A lot of the women that I encounter are seeking and in need of drug treatment, and there's nothing up here. You know, if we had this valuable resource that's so needed in our community, I would have somewhere to send these women to get help. I've had 8 women in this last year that I could not find placement for. There's nothing in this county. I couldn't find them any placement out of county. There's funding issues. This Women's Recovery Center would be so beneficial to this county and to even the work I do and many of us around the lake that provide services to people. Thank you. That's really all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, the next hand I have up is from Sean P. Sean, I give you permission to speak.
Thank you. My name is Sean Panessa, and I am a previous client as well as staff at Hilltop Recovery Services. I was a client during the time when they were on Socrates Mine, and after I graduated, they burned out. And first, to speak to the tenacity of this organization, they after the fire, they did not miss a group. They did not have to send anybody away. They made do and they persevered, and they opened up this new treatment center in December or January of the next year. A matter of months, they were back on their feet and shook it off like nothing happened for the men that they serve, for the clients that they serve. I have the privilege of being a part of this organization now, the honor of being a part of this, because they have nothing but love. You walk into the place, and I've talked to plenty of the of counties, outside counties that come in and pick up clients and drop off clients, and they know that this place is special, that we have a special family, a special love there that sets them apart from other organizations, from other drug rehabilitation centers. This isn't just a drug rehabilitation center. This is a place where people find themselves, learn to love themselves again, and transform into the people they were intended to be, to bring that to women that truly need and deserve it, that are like Miss Layton said, regarding they're in toxic environments and they have no way out, and they don't know any better. This is in such need in this county, and as somebody who's been on the other side of the fence, I've seen it, and to be here, we can be a part of changing it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the last hand I have up at this time is from Lori Carter. Lori, I've given you permission to speak. I'm going to ask you to unmute here. All right, Lori, looks like you're muted. Will you please confirm your first and last name?
My name is Desiree Askew. I'm the senior counselor at Hilltop Recovery Outpatient Clinic. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Perfect. Okay. So I just wanted to speak about in 2008, I had the privilege of working for the Lake County Lake County Community Action Center, in which there was a DAC program and a transitional living center for women. Unfortunately, in 2010, I believe 2011, our county no longer has the opportunity to serve women. I've been a counselor with Hilltop, I can say off and on, since 2012. I recently moved back March of 2020 so that I could support Lori and Hilltop to open this women's facility. Women are dying, and we have been bombarded with calls wanting to know, when is it opening? When is it opening? I can't go out of county. I have my family's here, my children's here, and the list is growing and growing. And unfortunately, like Dr. Gardner said earlier, people are dying. and it's so unfortunate. And we're trying to take in as many people as we can, men and women, here at Outpatient, and serve them to the best of our ability, and just create an environment to support them with some type of harm reduction at this point, you know, so that they feel supported. And this women's facility is going to be it's a profound necessity in this community. I have been a resident of Lake County since 1998, and I'm also a recovering addict. And, you know, I have seen what homeless and struggle and overdose looks like. And I have watched Hilltop persevere through so many things because of the passion to serve these people and because of the passion to save lives. You know, and to have the opportunity to help women reunite with their children and make better choices in their relationships, you know, and create some confidence and some self-esteem, so that we raise the next generation with an idea of independence, you know, and I just, you know, I just wanted to say that I understand the, you know, the hymns and the haws and the ins and the outs of, you know, the road access and things like that. I have also, as administration, sent Google requests to change the address, posted online, and they had said they had did it, and it's not done. Another request has been sent by myself, and I know Lori has contacted that as well. We're trying to change it in Google Maps so that it doesn't create any type of issue, which at this point I don't believe it would anyway. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Jake, is there any more hands, or is that your last one?
At this moment, there are no more hands raised in the Zoom room.
Thank you. Unfortunately, since we aren't able to make a decision today, I want to thank everybody for their time, for speaking and sharing their stories with us. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Either of the commissioners have anything that they wish to say to either the applicant or the public, just on your own behalf?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for participating in this. I've taken a lot of notes, and of course Trish here is entering all this into the minutes, so you've been heard. It's really been an education for me. Thank you.
I'm also glad that we went ahead with the public comment period today. I think it's an incredibly important issue. I recall voting on the issue before. It's important. My father was a mental health professional, and I know the good work you do.
Yes, definitely. We look forward to seeing you at the next scheduled meeting on January 13th, 2022. Again, thank you for your time. We'll go ahead and close this item and move forward with our next item. If you could approach just so everyone can hear you, please.
Lori Carter Runyon again. Does anybody know or have any suggestions on how to help us with Google? The journals are correct. I mean, it says 14715 Catholic Church Road as our address, because in order to help change the issues, we had the county change the address to 14715 Highway 20. That's the only reason it was changed, because of all the mix-up with our county roads. And Google has it incorrect, and they want to mail a card to the address that doesn't exist. Anybody, any way to help us so we can help the Chernos not continue to get that? Or, I mean, any suggestions, any information, any way to help us figure this solution out so they don't have that continued problem, because I agree, it's a problem for them, and it's not fair.
For sure.
Okay, so if anybody knows any way to do that,
We can just kind of take a mental note of it.
anybody knows, please.
For sure.
I don't know anyone at Google.
But anyway, if the county has an idea of how we can correct that,
For
because
sure.
it is a problem, and I've been doing it every day, I try to correct it.
I appreciate that. Staff will take note of that and kind of go from there. Again, I thank you all for talking about everything, and we will move on to the next item. We will see you again in January. Item number 3 is what was our 9:15 timed item. It is I'm going to let everybody clear out so that we can hear me a little bit better. Item number 3, scheduled for 9:15, is a public hearing on consideration of a major use permit, UP 20-68, and mitigative negative declaration IS 20-83. The project applicant is Christian Hernandez Rodriguez. He is proposing a 2-acre outdoor canopy area within 170,730 square feet cultivation area to include 12 shipping containers with a total of 4,000 square feet, solar panels, and 8 outdoor drying tents on existing agricultural land. The project is located at 2000 Clover Valley Road, Upper Lake, California, and further described as APN 004-007-25. Staff.
So we're going to go down the agenda list again. Okay, the applicant is requesting an approval for a major use permit to cultivate 2 acres of outdoor cannabis canopy area within an approximately 3.9 acres cultivation area to enclose the canopy area. The applicant initially requested the permit for mixed light cultivation within greenhouses. However, it would conflict with the Lake County zoning ordinance under the scenic combining district. The permit requested meets the criteria of the parcel size and the base zoning under the generally permitted uses, which is explained in greater detail in the staff report. The 3.9 acre fenced cultivation area will enclose the canopy area and include the following ancillary facility. The 320 square feet shipping container equipped with solar grid, a locked shed for agricultural chemical, 6 outdoor 525 square feet drying tent and 2 packaging tent, compost area, and 6 5,000 gallon water tank, and 1 will be used for fire suppressant. The zoning designation of the surrounding area includes agricultural to the north, rural lands and agricultural preserve to the east, agricultural preserve and rural lands to the south, and rural land to the west. To the southeast is recently approved cannabis operation. To the To the north of the parcel is Clover Creek. However, the project site is located over 500 feet away, and beyond is undeveloped land. There are several outbuildings in the surrounding areas with some agricultural uses. The project takes place in an existing vineyard, currently 27.4 acres of active producing vineyard, and would take place within the center and of the same footprint of the already developed vineyard. A site visit was conducted on August 6 of 2020 with code enforcement to verify existing condition and if it meets fire safety standards and zoning. The project has already also been approved for early activation as shown in the photo to the right. Staff reviewed the project for concurrence with the following listed and determined that it is consistent with the Lake County General Plan, Upper Lake Nice Area Plan, and Zoning Ordinance. The proposed project is within agriculture and resource conservation general plan designation. As proposed, the project meets the general plan goals as listed above by actively engaging in crop production and continued operation within the related activities for agricultural purposes. The proposed project would continue to serve its purpose to provide groundwater recharge function by cultivating outdoors by an increase of 0.2% of impervious surface for the proposed structures. The project meet this criteria as it is located approximately over 500 feet from the project site along Clover Creek. In addition, the proposed project meets the goal as a diverse economic base through the promotion of the agricultural industry. Cannabis cultivation operation is fairly new. However, this project does fit the goals and policy for land use described in the general plan by the promotion of economic development, employment opportunities, and the creation of a sound tax base for the county and the potential catalyst to diversify the economy. The project meets and complies with several objectives and policies within the Upper Lake and East Area Plan. The policy and objectives listed in the slide are integrated within the Lake County zoning ordinance and the proposed project. This includes providing a project management plan to detail the proposed irrigation technique and working cooperatively for conservation measures to protect water resources. The applicant will utilize a drip irrigation system to conserve water resources. The project parcel is designated within an area as designated as scenic combining. However, the siting of the project is located in the center of the parcel outside of the scenic corridor. In addition, it is screened from public views. The applicant will comply with the county's regulation as well as the state regarding hazardous materials. The applicant is required to be set back from waterway by 100 and 150 from this California State Water Quality Control Board. The siting is located approximately over 500 feet from the nearest water course. So it meets these objectives and policies. The applicant will utilize alternative energy sources such as solar panels. Energy conservation practices that will be implemented on site will include the solar power when possible, use of LED lights, use of insulative materials to reduce energy need for heat and cooling, and use of hand tools instead of power tools. Building equipped with solar panels will require permits in cooperation with the Community Development Department Building Division to comply with building and energy standards. In this slide, staff will demonstrate how each of these sections of the zoning ordinance are met. The project is located within the base zoning district agriculture. Agriculture is permitted use for a permitted use for cannabis. Commercial cannabis cultivation under Articles 27.13 AT when applying and approved for a major or minor use permit. The site is located within the Farmland Protection Zone under the number Ordinance 3101, whereas a location is designated for an area to protect a traditional crop from cannabis outdoor cultivation. Therefore, the project complies with the preservation of agricultural diversity and does not conflict with the amended ordinance. It is not within it. Article 34 protects views of scenic areas on Clover Valley Road. Under this article, there are limitation and restriction on what types of uses and dimensions of structures are permitted in areas designated as scenic. Greenhouses and agricultural processing are not permitted in scenic combining if designated adjacent to a state highway. However, the use project site is located on county road, where if located within the scenic combining, it is allowable upon first obtaining a major use permit with an allowable size of 5,000 square feet on each case. The applicant initially applied for the project to propose a two-step project development into a half-acre of cannabis within greenhouses. In order for the applicant to comply with the zoning ordinance of this article, the development to construct the greenhouse would need to be removed. The applicant decided to move forward without the use of greenhouse structure and therefore complies with the article. The parcel is designated as floodway fringe combining district. However, the project site is located outside of the special flood hazard area, and regulations within this area does not apply to the project site location and proposal of the project. Article 37 purpose is to preserve, protect, and restore significant riparian systems. Under this article, the project is required to have a 30 feet setback from the top of the stream bank. However, Article 27 regulation for cannabis further restrict this by 100 feet. And the California State Water Quality Board further restricts this by 150. The applicant complies with the state, local, and local regulation, and the project is set approximately 500 feet. Additional requirements such as development standard, general requirement, and restriction under Article 27 have also been met and fully addressed in the staff report. The historic use of the property includes a vineyard and other crop production for at least the past 30 years. A grading permit was issued prior to applying for the use permit for the removal of grape vineyard on the site under an exemption for agricultural crop conversion. The initial study found that the project could potentially cause significant impact and addresses the following bullets in this slide that can be found in attachment 5 as well as in the staff report. Staff has determined that all the impacts listed can be mitigated and reduced to less than significant due to the property management proposal provided by the applicant, complying with the federal, state, and local regulation during the permitting process, as well as additional measure listed in the staff report and the condition of approval. Staff addresses the impact of air quality in the project management plan found in attachment 5, which mitigate fugitive dust from construction. Cultural resources and tribal cultural resources was not identified during the survey in the archaeological report. However, conditions are put in place because it can occur unexpectedly during any ground disturbances. And to ensure that in a case of inadvertent discovery, these resources are protected. Lastly, construction from the project can result in temporary increase in noise. It is included to limited to certain hours of the day, which can be found in the staff report and the condition of approval. Lastly, the project management plan incorporates best management practices found in attachment 2 to address major concerns which minimize the potential impact and the need for additional measures is stated in this in the staff report. The review authority can only approve and conditionally approve a major use permit if the following findings listed in the slide are made. The project scope complies with the minimum regulatory requirements set by the local ordinance to address the general welfare of the public through private screening, security measures, background check, cleared violation of code enforcement, and setbacks. The project meets the size, siting, and location to accommodate the proposed canopy size and project scope. The road can accommodate for the use and provide adequate public and private services by complying with the Public Resource Code 4290 road standards. The project does conform with the provision and policies of the Lake County Code, general plan, and the approved zoning that have been addressed within the staff report. There are no known violations for the following chapters listed in this staff report and complies with all additional findings in the use permit. The applicant meets all of the qualification of the permit under Article 27 as previously stated. Staff recommend that the Planning Commission take the following action to adopt the mitigated negative declaration, IS 2083 for major use permit, UP 2068, with the following findings found in attachment 6. As a note, for the record, staff is aware that the initial study project description for the proposed greenhouses is no longer a consideration due to the current zoning for scenic combining to not allow the initial proposed greenhouses. However, the initial study did analyze the full substantial revision, as a piece of element is removed from the project due to non-compliance with the initial non-compliance with the local ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and does not consider it to be substantial revision to the negative declaration. Staff also recommends the approval of the major use permit, UP 2068, for the following findings on the previous slide.
Thank you so much. Either commissioners have anything to ask staff before we open it up for public comment? Fields? No? Okay. Is the applicant or anyone here on behalf of the applicant? Excellent. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. If anyone in chambers would like to speak in regards to this item, please approach the podium. You're more than welcome. Just be sure to state your first and last name for me, please, and you will have 3 minutes.
Bill Wilson.
Good morning, Bill.
To get things straight, mitigated negative declaration is adopted when steps have been taken to mitigate any potential significant impact. That's correct, right? Okay. Growing cannabis produces biogenic volatile organic compounds which react with nitrous oxide, which gives us ozone, and tropospheric ozone, ground level ozone. An initial study, if I'm not understood, is to determine whether an EIR or a negative declaration is needed. So in order to get an initial study put through, that should give everything that you need to mitigate any negative impacts. One thing in Article 27 from the county code says all indoor grows, greenhouses have to have carbon ventilation. Carbon ventilation may not be the best thing, but it's the best thing that they have going right now. So our cars, everything we have has to be, NOx is taken care of, the diesel trucks have to be, but pot needs to be grown with that concern also. I mean, we're polluting the atmosphere. And what I would like to know is, when the county okays these permits, after giving an initial study saying all of the things that they're going to do, the applicants, is the county going to stand behind the public if implementation isn't taken, or if they fail to keep going? I mean, I have not had any of the comments yet from the county saying, yeah, we're going to go and fight these people, either cease and desist orders or, whatever. But it seems like the county ordinances are pretty clear about what you have to have, and one of them that says is carbon filtration. And greenhouses, I mean, one pot plant produces hundreds of micrograms of the volatile every day, and I haven't heard that addressed yet. That's my big concern. Water, air, light, those are also concerns, but this is a health hazard, and that's why I thought everything had to be grown indoors in greenhouses with ventilation and sealed. Then the filters need to be serviced and checked regularly, annually checked. This is a health hazard. And then on the other part, as far as growing the pot, I've heard this before, and in today's newspaper I have read it again, a comment that is credited to our county ag commissioner that says, cannabis is not an agricultural crop. So then how can a business that's not agricultural be in an intensive ag district growing something that is not considered an agricultural crop? That may be something small, I'm not sure. But, and when back to the pollutants again, when we drive around and smell the cannabis, we're not smelling the legal filtered greenhouses. It's the illegal people, it's the people that are growing outdoors. That's what we need to curtail, I think, is the illegal outdoor grows that are actually contributing to this nitrous oxide poisoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any staff, did you want to say something?
Oh, Bill, to Bill. I think he was more just concerned with the first item.
The air filtration?
The carbon?
That was for are you speaking on behalf of North Coast Select, the first item? Or is this a
Yes,
general?
but I'm speaking in general right
Okay.
now. No, this is a general thing.
Okay.
I'm here for that, but it's a general wide thing. And, I mean, if you'd like some information on, can I give you some information on?
Sure.
This was a study done in Denver, 2019, and they go very much into the importance of filtration.
Thanks.
But yes, I'm speaking on general. This is,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to respond to the speaker if I could. I think Mr. Wilson brings up an excellent point. When I first started on this commission, I did talk to the Ag Commissioner about this, about cannabis and its status, whether it's an agricultural product or not, and it is not an agricultural product under the meaning of the Right to Farm Act in this county. And I'm not sure whether our new community development director is aware of that or not, but I do feel that it merits our attention. As far as the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, I was also concerned about that, so I spoke to our air quality director, Mr. Gearhart, and he said that he approached the Board of Supervisors early in the cannabis legislation process, and the Board of Supervisors decided not to make any rules about that. We may, as a community, decide to address that issue again, but I think it probably has to be done at a legislative level at the Board of Supervisors. That's
You mean
my
in terms
understanding.
of requiring activated carbon scrubbers, filters?
Yes, and/or monitoring of the volatile organic compounds that come
My
out.
understanding is that we can require that type of a filtration system on any application.
But we're talking about an outdoor grow, I don't know.
Well, we're talking about an outdoor grow because of what I consider to be a too narrow reading of the scenic combining district stuff. There would otherwise have been greenhouses as part of this grow. And somehow this very narrow interpretation permits a dozen shipping containers to be part of the grow, but no greenhouses. So I'm eager to have a more fundamental conversation about how we're interpreting grows that might involve a piece of a scenic combining district.
Public comment is still open if anyone would like to speak on this item. Good morning. Just be sure to state your first and last name for me, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Ken Molinaro, and I manage my family's ranch out on Highway 29 in Lower Lake. We currently grow grapes, and we're in for a minor use permit at the moment. I just wanted to speak in favor of this application, and going back to what you were just saying, I had a question and some concerns on this scenic combined corridor, in that it's my understanding that there's an interpretation by your legal counsel that if any part of your property is in scenic corridor, now your entire piece of property is in scenic corridor. And I think that's what happened here and why they had to change their application. That seems quite draconian, and I'm not quite sure how that could possibly be. My property, for example, is flat on Highway 29, and a small portion of it is in the scenic corridor. The rest of my ranch is up on the hill, and where we're proposing to grow, nobody can see it at all, and it in no way affects the scenic corridor, which my family supports. We think a scenic corridor is a great idea, and we would never support or even try to build anything or do anything within that scenic corridor. So I just, I'd like to support their application, but I would like to question the new scenic corridor interpretation, if I understand it correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll let the applicant go ahead and, yeah, you're welcome to approach the podium. Please be sure to state your first and last name for me. Thank you.
Jean-Luc Shaw, I'm the consultant for Mr. Hernandez. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Ms. Ham. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that as far as the scenic combining district goes, the applicant is more than open to changes. It's a condition that unfortunately we weren't aware of. We hadn't done our due diligence as far as finding all the districts out, but he's open to changing. We've already changed to get rid of the greenhouses. However, if greenhouses fit more in line with air quality or views as opposed to shipping containers, that's a possibility. There are various things on the table that the applicant is flexible to do.
Okay.
So, and I'm open to any questions. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jake, is there anyone in the Zoom room that wishes to speak on this?
At this time, there are no hands raised in the Zoom room.
Okay.
And with that, one hand has come up. The hand I have up is from Jennifer Smith. Jennifer, I've allowed you to speak. Looks like you're muted. Will you please confirm your first and last name?
Jennifer Smith.
Thank you.
I think there's several of us that have the same conversation. That it seems to me that there's been an interpretation of the scenic corridor and what is allowed and what is not. If it's the whole parcel or part of the parcel, there seems to be some precedent set with previous projects, and this seems inconsistent with those projects. I'd like a further, I think maybe some of the commissioners, Commissioner Hess was going to go down this path as well, but I think we need to have a consistent application of this rule, and I think that discussion needs to be had in this boardroom as well as with the department. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may.
Please. Hi, Nicole.
Hello. So for the scenic combining district, there are two sections that address greenhouses, just to make it applicable here. One section prohibits greenhouses, amongst other things, on property that is adjacent to a state highway. However, it may permit greenhouses on properties under a major use permit analysis for properties adjacent to county roads. Typically, interpretation of zoning applies to the entire property. It doesn't apply to pieces of the property unless you have very specific circumstances like envelopes and things like that, where you're carving out protective spaces for no building whatsoever and that sort of thing. If your commission would like, you could continue the item and I could research to determine whether or not there is legal precedent that would allow for, in this case, or cases like this, the sort of splicing of a property to apply a zoning. There is nothing currently in the scenic combining district zoning ordinance section that allows for the splicing. It simply says properties located in, and it says or zoned as, and it does not give indication that there would be any ability for staff to break those properties into pieces, simply because there may be, say, for example, a small portion of the property that's next to a road, but the rest of it is sprawled across a hillside, and it may not impact the scenic view. Your commission, under the current scenic corridor zoning section, is permitted to make that analysis with properties adjacent to county roads. But if this property, under that zoning ordinance, if this property is next to a highway, a state highway, then this zoning, I would say, applies to the entire property, and greenhouses would not be permissible.
If the point of a scenic corridor is scenery, we're in a situation where a couple of greenhouses are not permitted and a dozen shipping containers, and shipping containers look really weird on agricultural properties. And they're aesthetically displeasing, and I'm not accusing the applicant of anything, but we have in some cases required that shipping containers, when visible, be modified to look like a cabin or something.
Correct.
And how are we in a situation where a dozen bare naked shipping containers can sit out there in the scenic corridor and a couple of greenhouses are not permissible? I think that's, and I understand your interpretation about a state highway, but if the point is to protect those scenic values.
Correct. The zoning ordinance itself, that particular section, has a very specific list of things prohibited under those circumstances. Greenhouses are listed as a prohibited use. It does not list shipping containers. However, your commission has a great deal of discretion. You are not required to accept staff's assessment. You are not required to move forward if you cannot make the mandatory findings. If you think, and one of the CEQA evaluations is impacts to views and as part of environmental impacts, and if in the evidence presented to you, you have found that there is an impact, you can request that staff mitigate that impact.
One of the reasons I think this is worth debating is because I'm convinced, and I know of grows we have approved already that involve scenic combining districts where ultimate build-out plans would have otherwise included greenhouses. And this is not the only application where we're going to encounter this issue with the scenic corridor. And I just think it's something that has to be figured out. My own view, I'm not an attorney, is that this is a very, very narrow interpretation. And the whole point of the scenic values is being sacrificed for the sake of the interpretation. And that's not a personal comment, as you know, Councillor. But I just don't feel like we have this completely figured out.
Certainly, you can make recommendations, and staff can make recommendations to the board if there's a practical application issue with zoning requirements. I can't speak to past projects. I don't have them before me, and it wouldn't do any good for me to speculate here. And I understand that it could potentially be a draconian application for certain properties. I can't recommend a change. So,
Sure.
Of course.
But but again, your commission has a lot of discretion here. If you, in the evidence presented to you, you have found that there is an impact, you can request that staff mitigate that impact. And so that goes to the shipping containers, if that's an issue for you.
I'd like to jump in here if I could.
Please.
To me, a scenic corridor is as large as the view shed of any part of it. So the gentleman from Lower Lake, his situation might not apply because his property is not within, or the parts of the property are not within the view shed of the road. But I did a drive-by of this property, and it's flat, and it's all visible from the county road. I think what we have to do is we have to look at the cumulative impacts of all these little projects. I mean, it's no longer Clover Valley Road, it's Canamus Row. I mean, it's got when we approve every little permit, we have to consider the larger effect. And I think that that's what's meant by the CEQA term, cumulative. So until I have a different understanding of that, until I can take the time to look at all the other projects and be assured that that has occurred, I don't think that I can support this. I don't feel that cumulatively each of these projects is preserving the scenic values. Whether we're talking about 6-foot fences or shipping containers or greenhouses, I mean, scenic, yes, it's a subjective term, but the ordinance, the way it's written now, I mean, I can't see how we can support this. Anyone else have any comments?
How would one support any projects going forward with that view?
Well, it has to do with scenic corridors, and if we do not have a scenic corridor established, then yeah, I could support it. I would have to, I think.
The question isn't whether or not this project as applied for is permissible. It is. I mean, staff reports are always positive documents and recommending approval by us. So it's not that there's anything wrong with this application as presented. And we're also required to look at applications on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Which begs the question of how do you then factor in the cumulative effect of every application we consider, because you have to be fair to the individual applicant.
Yeah, that's the dilemma. And I guess I'm disagreeing with the staff assessment. I mean, I did see several check marks there where there's some concern about the cumulative effects, and I feel that they're pretty great.
Well, we're in a unique situation today because of only 3 present commissioners, and unless we have a unanimous vote, the project does not survive. And under those circumstances, I would be inclined to recommend continuing the issue until other commissioners are present.
That would be acceptable to me. I feel that it bears, further exploration.
Madam Chair, the planner has a statement.
I
Please.
just want to say something about the scenic combining. They are actually out, based on our GIS, where we have a scenic combining layer, it is outside of the scenic corridor.
Correct.
It is. But in our zoning ordinance, it explicitly says that there are two, where greenhouses are not allowed. And, for the state highway, they're not allowed at all. And for the county road, it is 5,000 square feet of greenhouses if it's adjacent to a county road. It explicitly says that. So I just want to throw that out there. But it is outside the scenic corridor it is in the center of the parcel.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, I don't know if public comment is still open, but I do have a hand raised in the Zoom room.
I do believe I closed it, Jake.
If I may make a comment
Please.
about the planner's comment, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to bring up things that haven't been brought before the commission yet, but why is the Bar X Ranch application even being considered? If it's, as you well know, it's adjacent to Highway 29, it's going to be a very large grow. Shouldn't the applicants have been told that they're never going to be able to build out the way they want to because they're on Highway 29?
Commissioner, I think your assessment was correct. The Bar X is not before the commission, so
Right.
Discussion of the commission,
Excuse me.
discussion in front of the commission.
The jury's instructed to disregard the comment.
Your commission may submit, without discussion, questions that you think staff should address when things come before you. But again, the Brown Act prohibits any discussion, any communication as far as your opinion, any deliberation, any communications between commissioners about the item. But you can certainly let staff know, I'd like you to address the specific zoning or what have you in detail to answer a particular question or what have you when it comes before you.
Although in a case like this, it's too late.
So, Commissioner Hess, would you wish for a little bit more clarification from staff, continuing? I'm just trying to get a feel for how you guys would like to handle this, what's in front of us right now.
I would support a continuance. I just don't feel like I'm seeing what I need to see. I guess maybe it's my fault that I don't understand that, how a cargo container can be considered scenically acceptable.
Commissioner Field, CEQA does require the analysis of cumulative impacts for environmental resources. Are you requesting that staff give you more information on the cumulative impacts to the scenic corridor?
Well, there's two different issues here. I'd like to have time to be convinced, if you will, that this is not going to have a cumulative impact on the area.
So just
for clarification's sake, there's a difference between if you're talking about a cumulative scenic impact.
Right.
We're talking about cumulative resource issues,
Right.
like greenhouse gases or dust or noise, those kinds of things. CEQA doesn't get into what you're trying to describe, and which I understand.
Well, I don't know if we can assess the cumulative scenic impacts then. I don't know. So I'm not ready to support it because I don't know that. But I'm willing to listen some more.
Or if you could be a little more articulate to what you are requesting of staff as far as clarification, what's going to actually answer, what you're apprehensive about.
Okay, yes, I will do that.
That might be a little bit helpful for her.
Before you do that, Commissioner, aesthetics are actually one of the environmental resources that are addressed under the initial study.
Thank you. So had we come to a conclusion as far as a continuance? Are we making a motion? Just looking for a little direction from the commissioners.
No, I'd certainly recommend continuing. And when we do meet again, there are some additional questions I would have for the applicant that I just don't think are relevant to today's discussion.
Kind of one bite at a time.
I agree with my colleague that I think we need to think about this a little bit more.
Absolutely, and I agree. I think there's a little bit of gray area that could be, kind of figured out a little bit more. Would January 13th give you enough time, or would you?
I'm seconding that motion to continue.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that. I'm sorry, will January 13th work for you?
Yeah, except I'm trying to figure out what exactly I'm addressing.
What does the calendar look like already on the 13th?
I think the calendar for January 13th may not be the most appropriate one. If we can continue this into a time to be determined, it'd be more appropriate.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And staff will get some clarification for you so you can kind of.
Thank you, Satori.
So you know how to piece that apart. I appreciate it. Okay. So moving forward, let's see. Our next item is item number 4. It's a public hearing on consideration of approving an amendment MMU 21-20 of major use permit UP 818-43 in categorical exemption CE 21-32, CEQA section 15304. The applicant, Sunny S. Branch, Shannon Sanders, is proposing 4 2,499 square foot nursery areas or greenhouses for immature cannabis plants in conjunction with previously approved project. The project location is 19424 Butts Canyon Road, Middletown, further described as APN 014-004-20. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, before Eric starts, actually this particular case, I am recommending that this case be continued because it was not advertised correctly, and we would be advertising this case for a reapplication for amendment and CEQA evaluation based on sections 15162 and 15164.
Thank you. And did you want to continue this without a date certain?
Yes.
Okay.
Is the applicant aware of this? Had you had a chance to let the applicant know that this was in?
No, I have not at this time. Eric, was the applicant notified that this item will be continued?
I wasn't aware of it until just now.
So this application actually was to be continued because of the advertisement issues with this particular one. And I know that a green sheet has been submitted on this particular case, but it should be ignored. But I would like for, if possible, for the applicant to speak. Thank you. If that's okay.
That would be up to the commission, if they would like to open the item and allow for the applicant to speak. The issues here, as Director Darby have stated, the issue here is notice again. The application is a reapplication for an amendment and not, and because of the way CEQA handles the an amendment of an already adopted CEQA determination, that would be either it would trigger an EIR or would require another MND or it would require an addendum to the already adopted mitigated negative declaration, and that was not noticed here. So it was noticed as a categorical exemption, which do not apply to addendum or addenda of already adopted CEQA evaluations.
Okay. So if I was to open the agenda item, we won't be getting a staff report, we will just be opening it for comment?
I do not know if the staff report addresses the categorical exemption or if the staff report addresses the either a need for an EIR, an addendum, or a new mitigated negative declaration. So you would have to ask staff if that's the case.
There's a fairly lengthy description of how this qualifies for a categorical exemption within the staff report. Staff feels like this is definitely ready for the Planning Commission. I also have a green sheet that further explains why it is exemptable from a CEQA analysis. And I'm prepared to distribute that to the commissioners if you're prepared to hear it today.
I'd like to, my personal view is, I agree with you, Eric. I'm familiar with this project. I remember when you were here before us the first time. And I think the staff report is adequate, and I would be prepared to act today. But I do take the director's point about a noticing issue. And I know how busy everybody is. We're drinking, we aren't, the commissioners, but the department is drinking from a fire hose, and I get that. But I would just also observe that there are 3 agenda items we've not been able to act on today because of technicalities, which is unfortunate.
Well, if I heard correctly, the reason that there was a request for continuance due to notification had to do with the fact that we categorically exempted the application. And I stand behind that. I believe that it is eligible for a Cat X. So if that's the case, I don't think that the noticing was incorrect.
Just so I understand. So what you're saying is, because of the status categorically exempt, noticing was treated differently for this follow-up hearing?
No, it wasn't treated differently.
I'm just trying to understand.
I'm trying to explain it. I'm not doing a very good job of it. The notification had to do with an amendment, and it had to do with the categorical exemption. What I heard just now from why it's problematic from a notification standpoint is that council feels that an EIR or an addenda to the negative declaration is required. I disagree. I think it falls under the categorical exemption criteria that's in the staff report and supplemented by the green sheet that I have. That means that the notice was correct.
Commissioners, CEQA, generally speaking, does not make it easy to change decisions already made under CEQA, in the sense of the encouragement is to include your entirety of your project at the outset so that it can be analyzed in its entirety altogether, and not piecemealed. To change an already adopted CEQA determination and treat it as a categorical exemption would potentially risk treating it as a piecemealed project, because the changes are to an entire project, and most of that project has already been analyzed by staff without these changes included as part of that analysis. So any potential impacts from the project in its entirety were not considered. The goal of the sections 15162 through 15164 are to address circumstances where changes must be made after an adoption of a CEQA determination that incorporate those changes into the full analysis that has already been adopted. So the decision maker should consider those changes in relation to the decision already made and any potential impacts or increase or cumulative impacts of these additions to a project already approved. To treat it as a categorical exemption would be to treat these individual changes as if they are a project on their own, and they are not.
Except it's my understanding that the areas where this, these additional shelter structures would go were assessed for biological and other CEQA-related issues at the time of the original application, perhaps in anticipation of expanding at some point. Is that incorrect, or?
That's correct.
So there was an assessment done on the land that will be, which will be where the structures are built.
So your recollection is there was that in the original initial study, there was an assessment of this particular suggested use? Or simply
that the property that is now in question has been assessed for biological, and I'm blanking on the other term.
Cultural.
Right. So CEQA was complicated, but that says to me that the concerns about where these structures are going, that land has already been assessed for that. And I'm not trying, I could be misunderstanding things, but I remember that from the first application, which signaled to me that you intended to expand at some point. But I'm also satisfied from what I've read from staff, et cetera, that land, which is part of the original parcel, was assessed for.
In its entirety, like as well.
And it's entirely possible that applying 15164, addendum to a negative declaration or a mitigated negative declaration or an EIR, would have the same outcome as applying a categorical exemption. But CEQA requires that the process be the one outlined under 15164, which is the addendum to the existing mitigated negative declaration.
So it sounds like we would be in violation of the Brown Act if we went ahead and considered that. That's what it sounds like to me, my assessment of what I'm hearing.
Considered the prior?
Well, we're talking about an amendment versus...
A categorical exemption.
Correct. The categorical exemption would apply to a project in its infancy at the start. Here, we are in fact, staff is in fact recommending that a prior mitigated negative declaration be amended. And therefore, the appropriate state law section that applies here is the 15164 if it's an amendment to a prior CEQA determination, and it fits under that category. The reason CEQA has these three sections largely is because you begin with 15162, and 15162 has about 3 sections in it that outline elements that, if they are triggered, require an EIR. So the goal is to have lead agencies determine that there is not in fact such an impact from these changes that an EIR is now required. Once it is determined that an EIR is not, then you can amend a mitigated negative declaration. But those are the steps that must be gone through under state law in order to amend a mitigated negative declaration.
Okay, so it sounds to me like it would indeed be piecemeal. I mean, I can't overrule our community development director. I think that if she wants us to continue it because it wasn't noticed properly, then I think we have to do that. Mary?
I agree with the advice of council and the CEQA guidelines. So my recommendation is to continue it based on improper advertisement and the review for an amendment to the CEQA guidelines.
I would so move then.
I'd just like to discuss this a little further. If we continue for the purpose of amending, I mean, are we going to have the same conversation on January 13th about an amendment or a categorical exemption? I mean, what will be different by having continued when we meet again on the 13th? Is there a resolution that will happen at the staff CDD level before we meet again?
I don't understand the question.
I'm prepared to, just for example, theoretically, I would be prepared to vote on this today. I'm uncomfortable doing that with only 3 commissioners here, because I don't think it's the applicant's fault that 2 commissioners are not present today. And so the rules change technically when there are just 3 of us. So for that reason, based on my colleagues' earlier comments, I support continuing. But I would also support accepting the staff report as is. And I don't know if I'm going to see a different staff report on the 13th, or that there will be more to consider.
Or if it was just a notification issue, right? Right.
Well, it's a procedural issue. It sounds like if we continue it, the purpose of the continuance would be to do a more in-depth CEQA evaluation. And so that would have to go back to the state clearinghouse. There's no way we could make January 13th. I'd have to reassess the entire impact based on these 4 2,500 square foot buildings. And we'd have to look at all 21 categories of CEQA in order to prepare that addenda to the initial study that was produced in 2018. So by continuing it, it's probably going to delay the project by no less than 3 months.
This is the season of goodwill, but I'm not feeling the Christmas love here today.
Commissioners, Mr. Porter is incorrect. An addendum to an MND, if that in fact is what is required here, does not require recirculation. There are a few elements that must be met by your commission in reviewing and determining and making a determination based on an addendum. And again, naturally, if you are unconvinced by the evidence, you have a broad discretion to say that I think that the impacts are greater, and I think 15612 is triggered, therefore I can't vote for this project. And you also have the option at that time we'll have the option of saying that you agree with staff's assessment. But under 15164 for addendum to an MND, recirculation is not actually required, but an assessment is required by staff, and determinations are required by the decision maker, and findings are required by the decision maker at that time. So it wouldn't be that involved. It's not a return to the beginning, but it is the process required under state law for this kind of action, if this in fact is the changing or the amending of an already approved mitigated negative declaration. And even if I were to suggest language today that could legally fit it within the category of an addendum and allow you to meet the criteria of 15164, then we still have the notice issue that is noticed as a categorical exemption.
I'm ready to continue, but I regret that it seems to happen so frequently now that we learn something the morning of or the moment before an agenda item comes up. The planner isn't aware this is coming up. We're not aware this is coming up. The applicant isn't aware this is coming up. The public is being done a disservice in that sense as well. Could we not identify these issues earlier on and deal with them internally rather than ripping ourselves open and, exposing us to the public? We look kind of like the Keystone Cops. And
I completely agree, Commissioner.
Commissioners, I apologize for these continuations, and so it would have been based on me to be able to reach out to the commissioners to let you know what was going on, but unfortunately, I did not do that. I did instruct staff, but not in this particular case. Eric stated that I did not.
Director Darby, this is not just on your watch. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Oh yeah, no, but I just had this conversation before about how I need to reach out ahead of time to alert when issues like this come up, and so I kind of rely on staff to do that, but I will make sure I tighten that up in the future.
I don't think it makes us look all that.
I don't know what a Keystone Cop is, so.
Oh, I'm dating myself.
Whatever that is.
It's a gang that couldn't shoot straight. It's a silent movie reference.
Okay.
That's so funny.
I thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate your taking accountability. I'd like to suggest, I made a motion. I'd like to suggest that maybe we could open public comment again. These people who have come here, I'm always eager to hear from the public. If you'd like to do that, I don't know.
If we are to do that, then we have to go through our staff report, and then we would have to open it to public comment, is my understanding.
I think personally, just continuing is more appropriate.
Okay.
And my drive is the same distance as your drive, and I know you'll be eager to be back here in January. And I know that you'll be eager to be back here as soon as possible, but under the circumstances, I don't support opening up the entire hearing process again, based on the advice from counsel and from the director.
If you wish to speak, you can come to the microphone. And And you'll have about 3 minutes, but just so that we are clear, we won't be, more than likely, we will be continuing the item, so I'll just give you a chance to
No, I appreciate it.
give us your sense.
Thank you. I'm Shannon Sanders, I'm the applicant, and no, I appreciate that these things happen. I think this is our second continuance. There might have been a third, but this was definitely the second. And I was wondering if I could request just being on the calendar, be it January or whenever, as soon as it's convenient.
Definitely.
I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we appreciate your patience.
Yeah, and I had some good news to report. We're working on our project, and we've received high marks from all the inspectors.
Excellent.
In fact, the ag inspector paused at the very end and said, "I just want to do something." And I was a little concerned what that was. And she goes, "I just want to shake your hand and say that you're doing it the right way," which kind of goes with our whole mantra of doing it 100% right.
Definitely.
So I look forward to seeing you soon, and hopefully I can get on the calendar at least. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we do appreciate the good actors.
Okay, I would like to amend my motion to continue this till January 13th.
We're not going to be able to make the notification period. Today is the last day that notices can be sent. And I haven't done the CEQA evaluation yet. That's going to take me probably no less than a week or two.
Director Darby?
So actually notification for our recording business is tomorrow, so we will be able to get the legals out for tomorrow.
Okay.
So it can be advertised.
Okay.
And Eric,
So my motion
Eric, does that give you, if she can get the legal notices out tomorrow, that you feel like that's sufficient for you to get done what you need to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, given the holiday, we're off for a week. It's going to be very tight. And I've got other deadlines. I don't know.
Well, I think it's best if we tentatively plan for January 13th, and then if by chance, Eric, if you feel like you need more time, if we could just kind of notify the applicant and staff and just kind of be on the same page.
That would be acceptable, thank you.
Thank you.
So is the motion then for continue to a date and time certain?
I thought we were gonna go ahead and do it the
Uncertain.
13th.
Okay.
We'll put it down for the 13th and then kind of go from there.
Just so everyone is aware, that means it would have to come back before you on the 13th, even if it is to recommend a further continuance.
Fair enough. I feel as long as the applicant is aware, then we can address it and then move forward that way. But we'll shoot for the 13th. I appreciate your patience. So we do have a motion for the continuance to January 13th.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you again. Does anyone need a bathroom break or anything? Are we okay right now? Okay. I'll make it work. I'm okay. Let's see. Lastly, we have a public hearing on consideration of major use permit UP 21-37 and a categorical exemption CE 21-55. The project applicant, Habermotel Pomo of Upper Lake, is proposing to establish an early childhood education center or a daycare in an existing building and add a new double-wide manufactured home to the site for daycare use. The project is located at 650 East Highway 20, Upper Lake, California, and further described as APN 004-058-24.
Eric Porter will be making this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we start the presentation, I need to do a couple of house cleaning items. First of all, there's reference to a daycare, to a community care, and I think there's one other term that I used. The actual term should be amended in the staff report and in the conditions to say nursery school. By definition, nursery schools are permitted in the C2 zoning district, and what the Habermotel tribe is proposing most closely matches the characteristics of a nursery school as it's defined in our code. Excuse me. There's also a reference to a broader age range than what the tribe envisioned for this facility. I don't remember the upper limit to the age, but the actual age range would be from 0. They can have up to 4 children 2 years old or younger, and then an additional 18 children that would be between 2 and 6 years old. And so the total number of children would be 22 maximum, with up to 5 adults that are supervising the children. Okay, with that said, sorry, I gotta get my other glasses here. Okay, so the project is for a daycare, nursery school, pardon me. Location of it is 650 East Highway 20 in Upper Lake. There's an existing building on the property. I don't know how to use this. Huh? Oh. That's not working.
Are you trying to start the presentation? Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I'm trying to advance the slides. How do I go back?
You can use the keyboard, the cursor keys, to navigate backwards.
All right. Okay, pardon the delay. So we're reviewing use permit 21-37 and categorical exemption 21-55 for this project. I indicated where the project's located, 650 East Highway 20 in Upper Lake. APN is 004-05824, and the applicant is the Bimetal Pomo of Upper Lake. Here's a shot of the zoning in the surrounding area. This particular lot's zoned SR, and it's adjacent to SR and some commercially zoned land. Directly across the street, across the highway, is the casino. I believe it's called Running Creek Casino. So the actual neighborhood is pretty consistent with a commercially designated area. Here's a picture of the aerial photo. The site's fairly well developed. It's got gravel, parking area in front. Several slides later, I'll show you where the proposed new manufactured home would be positioned. They're talking about adding a 1,531 square foot manufactured home that would work in conjunction with the existing building. Both would be used as daycare. Access is taken from Highway 20. Nursery schools are permitted use in the C2 zone with a major use permit. And like I indicated, they'll also be using this existing 731 square foot building. Nothing's happening. Okay, there you go. It's a Google Earth snapshot of the front. This gate is actually 30 feet away from the right-of-way line. So the gate is inset significantly to meet fire code. Project analysis, we evaluated it against the general plan, the Upper Lake Nice area plan, Lake County zoning ordinance, and they have to adhere to state regulations that regulate nursery schools. General plan, as I indicated, it's in the suburban reserve categorization. There's no conflicting policies within the general plan that apply to this project, and there's no specific policies addressing nursery school facilities in the general plan. Upper Lake Nice area plan, objective 5.4.1, to ensure that any proposed development is coordinated with public services capabilities. The site is already served with public water and sewer. It's already served with power, and it has a paved road. with direct access into the site. So we made a finding that all vital public services are available. Project analysis. Lake County Zoning Ordinance Article 9 is the suburban reserve zone. Nursery schools are permitted with a major use permit in the SR zone. Article 27, Section 11, Table B. Nursery schools are permitted in the SR zoning district with a major use permit. State regulations, Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division regulates these facilities. CEQA, it's exempt from CEQA based on section 15301 sub E sub 2. This section exempts small projects if all utilities are present and if there are no potential biological impacts. So the findings that we had to make, there are 6 for a major use permit. The use won't be detrimental to the neighborhood, that the site is adequately sized, shaped, and the location is adequate for the use. Number 3, that streets, highways, and pedestrian facilities are adequate. Number 4, that public and private services are available to the site. Number 5, that the project conforms with the general plan, the area plan, and zoning ordinance. And finally, that there are no violations on the property. So, given that, we are recommending that the Planning Commission adopt categorical exemption CE 21-55 and approve use permit UP 21-37 with conditions, with the changes that I had recommended. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Eric.
Commissioners?
Please.
Before we move forward, I'd like to make a couple of clarifications. Eric has cited the incorrect law from the zoning ordinance in the report. In fact, the section that applies to nursery schools from Article 27 for uses and mandatory conditions for uses is 27.13, parenthetical V as in Victor. Under that section, there are in fact no criteria that are mandatory. That doesn't mean that your commission can't find that there are necessary conditions for this project, but there are none that are mandatory. It says none under that section. And as far as existing facilities go for CEQA exemptions under 15301, Class 1 exemptions for existing facilities, that is what's cited, correct? You sure I'm giving you the correct advice here? Yeah, 15301, Class 1 exemption, applies to negligible or no expansion of an existing use. Circumstances where the operation, repair, maintenance, permitting, leasing, licensing, or there are minor alterations to an existing public or private structures, facilities, or the use on site. If in your analysis you find that the installation of a brand new double wide, the connection of that double wide to utilities, the installation of an ADA compliant bathroom, the installation of an ADA compliant ramp, and the preparation of parking and parking spaces falls within that definition, then you can certainly make that finding and that the categorical exemption applies. If, however, you think that all of those things collectively do not constitute a negligible or no expansion of an existing use, then you would not then make the finding for the categorical exemption here.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments from the commissioners before I open it up for public comment? Okay. You have been so patient. Would you like to speak? Absolutely. Just be sure to state your first and last name for us. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Treppa. I'm Vice Chairperson of the Hub Edmonton Pomo of Upper Lake. I'm here to advocate, obviously, for this project, the opening of this project. It's much needed in our Upper Lake area, not to mention the North Shore community. Oftentimes, parents and children are put on wait lists for several months. This facility, the opening of this facility, would help to alleviate that. I did want to address the ADA issues. We have installed 2 ADA compliant ramps, one in the front and one in the back. We are in the process of renovating the main bathroom to accommodate the ADA requirements. I did want to make one additional comment with regards to the planning department. Specifically wanted to thank Mr. Eric Porter. He was very accommodating and just really helped the whole process. He was much help to us, so thank you.
Thanks.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Jake, is there any hands in the Zoom room, Jake?
At this moment, there are no hands in the Zoom room.
Okay, we'll give it just a second, just in case, and I will officially close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
Madam Chair?
Please,
It
Eric.
just dawned on me, originally this was, I thought, going to the zoning administrator. I think the first motion or the second motion still mentions the zoning administrator. It should be planning commission.
Thank you. That was brought to our attention before we started the meeting, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay. And Commissioner Hess, do you see what he's referring to on the motions? Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Excuse me, Nicole, is the language otherwise correct on the sample motion? I feel that I'm ready to find the addition.
I'm sorry, for which motion? Categorical exemption?
Yeah, it says from CEQA because it falls within categorical exemption class 3 subsection 15301E2. Is that the correct one? Do you know? Pursuant to what you were talking about earlier.
No, 1 second.
You said class 1 applies to negligible or no expansion.
Correct. If this is 15301, it is a class 1 exemption.
Okay, so I'm ready to find that is a negligible expansion.
Support that.
All right, so I move that the Planning Commission find that the major use permit UP 21-37 applied for by the Habamodalo Pomo of Upper Lake on property located at 650 East Highway 20, Upper Lake, further described as APN number 004-058-24, is exempt from CEQA because it falls within categorical exemption class 3 subsection 15301E2 based on the findings set forth in the staff report dated December 16th, 2021.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I further move that the Planning Commission find that the major use permit UP 2137 applied for by the Habamodalo Pomo of Upper Lake on property located at 650 East Highway 20, Upper Lake, further described as APN 004-058-24, does meet the requirements of 27.11 Table B, subsection E, 9, and 51.4 of the Lake County zoning ordinance, and that the Planning Commission has reviewed and considered the categorical exemption which was adopted for this project, and the major use permit be granted subject to the conditions and with the findings listed in the staff report dated December 16th, 2021.
Second?
As amended, please?
As amended.
There were, Eric had...
Oh,
A green
sorry.
sheet.
I
and
read it.
Nursery school reference, and yeah.
I read it, yeah.
So as amended here today, there's been a motion,
Second.
a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Note the applicant.
Oh. Oh my, I'm so not even on it right now. Thank you. I'm awake. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's decision, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fees must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Planning Commission's final determination. Okay. Onward.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you to the applicant for waiting. And we are going to move on to our untimed staff update with office news.
So
We have a conflict with our June 9, 2022 meeting. So the Board of Supervisors agenda for 2022, they have a budget hearing that will be held here in this room on June 8th and June 9th. So that's conflicting with our June 9th meeting. So we have an option to hold a special meeting for that particular date or to cancel that particular agenda item for June 9th. So I just need your direction on that.
With three of us being present, are we able to make that decision? Kind of like
A
what works for
quorum
us?
can make a determination, can make a decision, yes.
Let me see.
So would the special meeting occur on the same day, just at a different time?
Microphone, John, or Commissioner Hess.
I'm so sorry. So would the special meeting occur on the same day, just at a different time?
Unfortunately, I do not know the time of the budget hearing for June 9th, so I cannot speak to
They
that.
tend to be lengthy.
Yes. So I would possibly recommend that it would be another date other than June 9th.
Sure.
Can we kick it down the road a week? Would that work?
So my only concern is if we move this to a different week, then do all of our other weeks coincide from 2 weeks, or are we just the second and the fourth week?
If you hold a special meeting, that does not impact your regular meeting timeframes. So you may have potentially back-to-back meetings if you choose a specific.
June seems like a long time away.
I know.
You say that, and then.
I know, here we are, December, right? Any other updates, Director?
No, sir, I'm sorry, not at this
No
time.
worries.
I thought you were looking at your calendars.
Thank you.
So do you want us to make a decision right now?
If that's possible, if not, then we can follow up at a later date.
I say I would be okay with following up at the later date when we have more commissioners here to kind of consider what works for them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
This
and
is
we can-
also an administrative thing, so you don't necessarily need to have the decision made here at a hearing.
Just
So
kind of
you
giving us
can-
notice.
You can communicate with the commissioners individually, as long as you're not discussing their opinions on items, deliberating, or creating creating a deliberation between them.
Okay, thank you. I will follow up with each of you at a later date.
Okay.
Thank you, Director.
Any other things coming up for the new year that we can be anticipating, Director Darby? Big projects, any secrets you can tell us?
Not at this time, but if there are, I will definitely reach out to you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.